And I just turned around and I hauled ass out of there. I was done. I wasn't dealing with that.
The hypocrisy of the cult is one of the things that turned me away the quickest.
When I turned my headlights on, it turned and looked at us. And one of the things I remember the most were the eyes were glowing red.
I see an orb of light. It is just circling these steps like it is waiting for me.
And he begins to tell them that he saw a UFO. They're basically like, what are you talking about? That's 7 foot up on a tree, peeking around it. And that's where I saw the top of the muzzle, nose, and the eyes. As soon as I made eye contact with this thing, it felt like death.
Welcome back to another new episode of Tinfoil Tales. I'm your host, Brandon Wright. Tonight's episode is going to be a little bit different. I'm doing a Swapcast with the Lost Frequency podcast. So Ryan and Tom from there will be on here to talk about their experiences and me sharing some of mine. Looks to be a really fun and interesting episode, so hope you guys enjoy it. Definitely check out the Lost Frequencies podcast. You can find it wherever you find Tinfoil Tales podcasts, so just remember to make sure you go give them a listen. They've got some pretty cool guests and interesting topics they discuss, so thought you guys would enjoy it. But before we do that, we got some business to take care of as usual. If you have an experience you'd like to share, send an email to tinfoiltalespodcast@gmail.com, and we'll get you scheduled for a future episode. You want to help the podcast, you can share it around, leave a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast at. You can find us on social media, follow us on there. Again, word of mouth and sharing the podcast and everything you do in that aspect helps the podcast because it brings more awareness to the podcast, which eventually will lead to new guests on the podcast. So everything you do, I appreciate it. With that all being said, don't want to take too much time, so we're going to jump right on into it. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. I'd like to take this time to welcome my guests, Ryan and Tom. Thanks for coming out and talk to me.
Hey, thanks for having us on.
Yeah, this is awesome. It was a long time. We've been trying to organize this for a little bit, and with our schedules, and we finally made it work.
Yep. So it's always hard to get other podcasters I've noticed on here because we've all got other interviews to do too, and it's hard to balance it out with having jobs and families and all the fun stuff that we do. But we got it to work.
Tell me about it.
It would be great that if this could be our job. I know this is it's the side job. It's a side hustle right now. But in the future, we hope this to be our job and, get away from our full-time jobs or whatever we are currently doing and do this full-time.
Yeah.
I think I would enjoy that, but at the same time, I get bored. So I'd rather not. If this to me is fun, it's like the musician side of me, like it's my hobby right now since I'm not doing music stuff. So if I started doing this as a job, I'd probably get bored with it like I do my normal job. I don't want to see it as a job, I guess.
Right, because I think anytime you turn anything to your job, then exactly. I get kind of bored with stuff too. But
and I do too. But the only thing is, I think though, is that would be different. Yeah, like editing, does become like the job part of it. But the interviewing of people is fantastic.
Yeah, that's fun. You never know what you're going to hear.
I've heard some strange things, and I've always been somewhat of a skeptic myself. So it's like I've had some weird stuff happen, but at the same time, it's like I don't know about all this. And then I started doing the podcast, and I'm trying to be more open-minded about things. And the more I've gotten into it, and the more I've heard, I'm just like, well, I'm just a guy with a microphone at this point. I don't know what the hell's going on. I'm not going to say I'm an expert. Anyone that comes off saying they're an expert and they know what they're talking about, I'm like, we'll see about that, but okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who claim to be experts in things that you can't
really
know everything about. It's impossible to even be an expert on like gravity.
Yeah,
there's always something changing with that too.
Yeah,
the way it's been, like, am I being pulled down or pushed down? Which one is it?
If you've ever went down the flat Earth realm, they say gravity doesn't even exist.
Exactly. Or you're buoyant.
No.
Oh, I've heard that one too.
Actually, speaking of that, our guest tomorrow night is a big flat earther, so that's going to be a fantastic. I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Tataria.
And we're going to delve into Tataria as well.
That's cool. I've actually was trying to find someone to be on an episode about Tataria, so.
Yeah, he was on the.
He was just on Tinfoil Hat.
Tinfoil Hat, but he's been on there a couple times actually.
Yeah, Hibbler. I don't know if you know
Sean
Hibbler.
No, I'm not familiar with him.
Yeah, well, look him up, dude. He's like a documentary, and
he's in the process of creating a documentary about Tataria right now.
Nice. Yeah, I've heard a little bit about it. I haven't done a whole lot of looking into it, but I actually last week I started posting up some stuff in groups because that's how I find a lot of the guests I have or whatever. And I haven't heard back from anybody
on Facebook or what.
Yeah, usually Facebook. I also do Reddit, but
Reddit's can be.
I think I saw both you guys on Reddit too. I think we've been in some of the same subs, and like Reddit is very that's a rabbit hole. It's a rabbit hole in itself because you've got some people on there that want to be cool, and the other people they're straight up dicks. So it's just like whatever.
Yep. That's exactly it. There are some people who just want to be a-holes, and they're just and they do that, and you're like, and
ignore it, plow through, man. Like I go on, like I'm a big doom metal fan, like psychedelic doom, stoner doom, and like just to get some like karma points so I could post some of my stuff. I'm just like, hey, so what do you guys think about the first three? Well, the only three Sleep albums. Well, how would you put those? And then people just start going like, yeah, and then you get the karma. But so if you know like the stuff you're talking about, but when it comes to the things that we talk about on our podcast, if you go on any of those, like the posting requirements sometimes, like you can't do this. It has to be this way on Tuesday. And then someone's like, you don't know what you're talking about, dude. So I don't worry about that. You just got to plow through and do your own thing.
But finding guests though, like how I found Ginger on.
Right.
That's
hard.
Yeah.
That's a minefield.
It is. You don't know who you're going to get. Wow. That's just the background noise is really going off right now. We got a lot of
dogs and trucks.
I don't really hear a lot of it.
Perfect.
That's the thing I like with Zoom is they actually muffle out a lot of background noise the way I have it set up.
Nice.
So, you can actually go through the audio yourself and change the way you want it. Like
they have if you have the paid subscription, they have ways to eliminate background noises.
Oh wow!
So,
like I know StreamYard does that as well, but it's all automatic, and
that's how this is too. So
okay.
But
I can't play with any of those settings. Or at least I haven't looked into playing with any of those settings. Maybe I should.
I've looked at StreamYard, but it's $25 a month, and I'm like, I'm only paying $15 for
10.
When I look online, it says 25.
Well, we got the basic essential package. So the essential package, all it is it's the same as I think it's like the same as the $25 one, but you have the StreamYard logo always up kind of thing. That's the only thing that you do, but it gives you everything else. And then if you get a referral from someone who has StreamYard, they get a bonus. So the next time they sign up, they get like 20, or like for their next year, they get like $20 off. But then it gives you, I think it's like $15 off for the year as well. So instead of paying 120, you're paying like 105.
Nice. Yeah.
But if you got Zoom for work.
Well, this is separate from my work because I didn't want my work having access to what I do on my podcast.
Fair enough.
What I do for work, if I know a lot of people know I do a podcast at work, but if they knew the stuff I talk about or this and that, like I'm in charge of multi-million-dollar contracts for construction work and everything. So if they think I'm some crazy person that sees aliens or dog men or something like that, they're gonna start questioning if they really can trust me to be making sure I build these roads correctly and bridges and shit.
Yeah, but the aliens built the pyramids. You would think that would be like an advantage.
Yeah.
What's actually crazy is I have one of our previous guests. I'm not going to mention any names, but they have someone else who experienced a bunch of stuff with them. And this person will not come forward because he's almost in the same position as you. And he's like, once I retire, then I will come forward and, and share my story. But up until that point, I'm keeping quiet over everything.
Yeah.
At this rate, I'm like, people know, like people that I work for, people that I get, because basically I'm a consultant, so I get high, like, I say I'm a high-priced whore, basically. I get bid off to government agencies to make sure the jobs get done correctly, and my company makes a decent amount of money off of me. I make decent money, and it's like, whatever. I guess if a client goes on there and thinks that I'm crazy, and then.
But if you're dealing with government contracts, that's still the same thing, dog. You got NORAD and all that's Yucca Mountain. And, they're into alien stuff too. They're doing soft disclosure. You can't build a building because you want to talk about the thing that you're already doing? Come on.
Yeah. I don't have the clearance level, I don't think.
I actually do have a clearance. I was in the military, so I do have a clearance level. Secret.
I have a clearance level.
Shit.
Clearance level K.
That's why I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
Until now. It's a deal I have with the government.
No, I tell you, I gotta kill you.
No.
One of the guys that I had on a contract, they were doing they're called drilled shafts. They had to do like these caissons and drill them in so they could put in these pillars for the bridge that we were building. And he claimed he used to work for a company that built like blast doors, which I don't really know what a blast. I know what like the term a blast door is, but I don't know. He claims that he went to one of the, not Area 51, but it was a base out in Nevada that wasn't considered 51, but they weren't allowed to see anything, and they could only be in that one specific area with guards surrounding them the whole time while they installed these blast doors. But on the way there and the way back, they weren't allowed to watch where they were going. They had them like cover it up to where they couldn't see.
Wow.
Now, does he feed me a line of crap? Probably, but at the same time, you never know. Someone has to install that stuff.
Exactly. Someone's got to install it, and very much could be
maybe like a really strong blind person with good sense of feel. I'm just like a braille door. I don't know. That's
But yeah, we've been talking for a few minutes now. You guys want to let everyone know the name of your podcast and everything?
Oh shit, yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking
maybe we should jump into that.
I didn't know how to shoehorn it in, but I was like, you get there. Hey, you're a professional. Yeah, so we're the Lost Frequency Podcast, and my name's Tom, and this is Wright, and
we're on YouTube, Facebook, Reddit, Ko-fi, TikTok, and Instagram. But TikTok and Instagram are kind of like
they're difficult.
I'm dragging them along. Every now and then I'll post something.
Kind of putt a little bit along there, and we discuss all manners of weird things, quote unquote, that mainstream won't touch, and a place where people get to tell their stories and say what they feel, tell their truths, and that's what we do.
Yeah, you and I are pretty much same line. That's kind of what I do here too. Is I interview people with their experiences. I've interviewed researchers that have their own theories on things, or a lot of different topics that I've touched base on. So that's kind of, I enjoy hearing this stuff because I think we've all had something that's made us start doing this or looking into this stuff. Okay. I know there's some people that don't really have experiences. They just do it for the entertainment purposes or whatever. But I've always felt like it's more genuine when someone actually has had something that's made them want to look into this stuff. But,
yeah, true. Yeah, I mean, I've had a couple. I've had a poltergeist experience. I've had Hatman and whatever that stuff that's happening to me out there on the ranch. So I don't know what you even call that. Paranormal stuff, I guess. Yeah, some
fall into stuff. That general term.
Yeah, so I mean, it always interested me because it's so scary, so strange. No one believes you, but at the same time, I think most people have had somewhat. I would say what would you?
I wouldn't say similar, but everybody's
people.
Yeah, everybody's had experiences, and it's whether they want to acknowledge it or not. It's a big thing. And like myself, paranormal kind of go hand in hand with me. I've seen tons of stuff constantly, and then there's a couple of UFO sightings, both here in Mexico, actually. Strangely enough, oh yeah, and we're in Mexico. That's where we record on the top of my my roof on a patio, kind of rooftop patio here in Mexico, in the Gulf of Mexico, and it's amazing.
Kind of jealous to see you guys wearing T-shirts, and here we are freezing our asses off here in Indiana.
and I'm kind of warm. It's kind of there's no wind or anything.
About 85 today, 86,
about 28.
Yeah,
29 degrees Celsius.
29.
I'm Canadian. He's American, so that's why we're
87.
Yeah.
And that's cool. This is the cool time of the year.
Yes, this is
nice.
Yeah, it actually was kind of cold last night. I was getting a little
if it gets
chill.
into like the 70s, dude, you're like, wow. I mean, like the lowest daytime high I've seen here in 2 years is 74.
And you were laughing at me when Tom first got here. He was laughing at me because I was wearing a sweater because I've been here for a while already, and I was already somewhat acclimatized. And he's like, "Well, dude," and you were wearing a tank top and like shorts, and like, dude, what are you doing? And I'm wearing a sweater.
And he's like, I'm cold.
I'm cold, and he's like, what? And I'm like, wait. I said, wait till next year.
Yeah, because I moved here from Germany, which it's like like Canada, where it's 6 months of the year, like winter and. Well, I don't know how cloudy it is in Calgary, but like
Germany is always cloudy, right?
Always cloudy.
Yeah, Calgary is near one of the sunniest places in. I think it's like, well, at least in Canada, but I think it's actually in the world that gets the most sun. Okay. It's a place called Medicine Hat, gets the most sun out of any place in the world.
No, not what I know. It was the sunniest city in all of Germany, but still, I mean, I remember there was a year, I think 2019 or something like that. The whole month of December, the sun did not come out one time. It was always cloudy.
That's depressing.
Oh yeah, that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
One of the reasons.
Yeah.
We get sunshine. It's been sunny the last few days. We actually haven't had any snow yet, which is nice because that's I used to love snow, and then before I do what I do now, like I had to actually work for our DOT department, so I had to plow snow. Oh. And that being on call 24/7, that I started hating winters.
It loses its magic.
Yeah.
And then move. That's easy.
Well, I don't have to deal with any of that now, so it can snow 8 feet. I don't give a shit because I don't have to go plow.
I always thought that was funny when people complain about the weather and they just like don't move.
Yeah, but it could be that your job and your family and everything else is there.
Well, then change your job and change your family.
You
only get to live once.
I already told my wife if it wasn't for the stepkids and everything else, like we have opportunities to move because they're hiring. It's my same company. They're looking for people to go down to Florida, like Southern Florida. They're looking for people Southern Texas.
Oh wow!
I was like, man, I'd get the hell out of this area if I could, but kind of stuck here.
It is what it is, man. That's life.
Yep.
Yeah. So we got into podcasting more or less because we've all had experiences where we're both a little strange, and
our listeners know that by now. But yeah, we're definitely weird. Rye's like a dream guy, and I'm like a dreamy guy.
Oh my god,
that was good, man.
How did you guys meet each other? Far as like
at a gay bar? No, we he was already here. He moved here for a very specific reason. I think you can kind of figure out what that was. It happened about 3 years ago.
Yeah, needed
the
to get
beast
away.
Yeah. Good way to describe it.
Yeah, I wanted to get rid of it. I want to get out away from the lockdowns that were happening where I was living. It was just getting ridiculous. I couldn't go to restaurants or anything like that. And I'm not saying like that was the reason, but I'm just saying like ridiculous. It's show me your papers. I was like, no. So we left, came here with my wife and my daughter, and I monitored, there's an expat Facebook group for this area, and I would watch it because it was full of scared people. But every now and then you get someone posting in there, someone new who would post in there and asking the wrong questions, but for me, the right questions. And I'd be like, okay, I'm going to reach out to that person.
Like, this guy's cool.
Yeah, I saw Tom.
That was me.
I think you were asking maybe about, well, I don't know, but you're asking something. And I was like, dude, you don't ask that. You don't ask those questions here, but I will help you. So that's how we met, was just over Facebook. He was still in Germany. And he's like, I want to move there. Like, cool. And so he eventually came here. We met and just started talking, hanging out. And I started telling him that I'm weird.
He kept saying, he was like, oh yeah, the other day, he was like showing me his father-in-law's property. He's like, yeah, the other day I seen a shadow figure over there in the corner. And I was just like, what about hello, man? Like, it's like, they're going to give me a little foreplay on this situation here, bro.
So that's it. And like Tom was already doing a podcast, like a comedy type podcast, and I was not doing anything. I do what I was doing, but I always wanted to have a podcast, kind of exactly the style that we're doing. And it was already for a couple of years I had wanted to do this. I never really jumped at it, and then we just started talking, and developed into this.
There been anything since you've been down there? You said something about a shadow person. Have you been encountering and experiencing weird shit since you've been down there?
I experience weird shit on the regular.
On the rig.
Okay, so I'll say like instead of going into ghosts or anything like that or paranormal, I'll go into UFOs. So I was sitting up on this exact patio where I was. One of my friends was going through a bit of a hard time, and he's like, "Hey, can you call me back?" He's back in Canada. I'm like, "Hey, can you call me?" I'm like, "Sure." So I went and sat on the ground here on the patio up here and had all the lights off. It's nice when all the lights are off. You know, it's kind of relaxing and peaceful when the dogs aren't barking. And so I'm sitting there talking on the phone. And something just told me look up, like just watch in that direction, and at the exact same direction. So I'm sitting there watching, and I see a light coming towards me. It's getting larger and larger and larger, and I'm like, and so I'm talking on the phone while it's happening. I'm like, oh, hey, I see this light. You know, it's getting brighter and brighter. And could it be a plane at that time? Yeah, it could be. Could it be a UFO at that time? Yeah, it could be. Well, and then it split. It split into two lights, and they kind of did a almond or like an oval, but more of like shaped ends, like pointed ends, I guess you could say. It went like this, came back and around, and then joined back together again. And I'm sitting there talking to him on the phone as this is happening. And I'm like, dude, I'm seeing this is happening right in front of me. And he's like, oh, that's awesome, you know? And he's a believer as well, you know, like he I don't know if he's had any experiences himself, and then I saw it go, and then it disappeared. Now, after it disappeared, I was still looking in that direction. Maybe a couple minutes later, in that exact spot, what I saw would only be best described as a shooting star. Just in that little spot. It wasn't like it's like what flying across the whole skyline or anything like that. It was just in that little spot. It was just like and I just saw a shooting star in the exact location where this disappeared. Was it related? I can't tell you. I would assume it was, but I don't know. So that was my UFO thing that happened here.
Yeah, and then I just saw, like we talked about a little bit ago, that weird stuff here tonight. And then, ironically, it was before I went on another podcast a couple of weeks ago is when I saw the thing out in the backyard. I don't know.
Why don't you describe that thing in the backyard again? That was interesting.
It looked like a flare because it was bright orange and it was like almost looked fiery.
Yeah.
It didn't have any, like it had like that flicker like a flare would. But a flare, if you see it, wouldn't be coming down. This thing was almost hovering, and then it went up a little bit, and then it just goes completely. It didn't like fade out. It literally just disappeared.
What are those things? What are those things called? They used to call them back in the. They're little lights that used to glow in the forest, and they would disappear, and they had a name for them.
Swapcast?
No.
Will-o'-the-wisp?
Yes, Will-o'-the-wisp. It could have been, you know, maybe we could something along that line.
Well, this was up in the sky, so I don't know.
Oh, okay. How high up in the sky was it?
I mean, it had to have been. It wasn't super high because my backyard, I've got a couple acres. We got goats and stuff back there, so it's above the goat area, and there's a big field. Like there's next to us, we lived in a big field, and behind us there was like another 30-something acres of field. So it was out above the field, and I would say, depending on how big it was, if it was huge, obviously it was really high up there, but it was still, looking at my level, maybe 100 feet in the air. If that was, again, I can't tell the distance for this completely dark outside like your guys.
Yeah, of course.
It was hard to say. There was no sound. There was nothing. It had to have been out in the field or it had to have been up in the air, out above the trees. So if it was above the trees, obviously it's thousands of feet in the air. But if it wasn't that high up and it was closer, only a couple of 100 feet maybe.
I've never heard Will-o'-the-wisp.
You never heard that before?
I've never heard.
Okay. And was it also like, you said, was it dropping stuff?
No, it was just stationary. And then like I yelled for my wife and son to come look. So they're staring at it for a few seconds here and there. And like I'd walked off. I don't remember what I did, but I walked off and I came back and it had went up just a little bit. And then it was almost behind where our tree was. Like it had moved a little bit, and then it just straight up disappears. Now, there's no leaves on the tree, so we could still see it through the tree. So it wasn't just hiding behind leaves or anything because all the leaves here are gone. But I can't explain what that was. I said if it was a flare, you'd think the flare would have been dropping, not rising to disappear.
Right. And it has a little smoke trail behind it.
Now I have. So when I first was moving to Mexico, the first time I moved to Mexico, I have a little bit of story of a flare as well, and I don't know what this was. So green color, like a really like phosphorescent green color, and I was flying. I was in the airplane, and in Mexico, I know they think they're changing it now, but when you arrive in Mexico, you walk up to like a little kiosk almost, and you press a button, and if you get green, you just go on ahead. But if you get red, they're going to search your stuff. It's random. Okay. And so I was bringing a ton of stuff. Not that it was illegal, but it was just would have caused a lot of problems. Like I probably would have been there over an hour.
It reminds you of the show Pressure Luck.
Yeah.
No women.
So, well, when I was flying, I was just like, okay, please give me, and this is like, I'm like, give me a sign that I'm going to have an ease going through customs. Like I want a sign that's going to be no problems and no issues. So I look up my window and like talk about timing. I see this green thing falling from the sky, and like was it my best description would be it was a flare, but we're flying at, what? I don't know how aircraft, 30,000 feet. Is that what aircraft fly? So we're flying at 30,000 feet. I look out and it's nighttime and there's this green thing falling from the sky, and it was like gently falling. It wasn't like it was like crashing to the sky, like crashing down or something. It was just this green burning thing from the sky. It was super amazing. Of course, I wrote that down when that happened, so I was able to document that. But that was something that was really, really strange. And when I did go through customs, press the button, got the green, away I went. But it was super, super interesting. And everybody, it was at nighttime. There was a bit of a storm out, so everybody had their blinds or their shutters closed. I don't know what you want to call it. And of course, mine, I had opened it and I saw this. No one else, of course, no one else saw it. Just me. So it was very interesting.
Strangely enough, and I posted the picture because it came up in my Facebook memories a couple months ago, and I posted it up on the Tinfoil Tales Facebook page. I was flying back from Oregon, and we were obviously over, I think, what had to have been like Utah, Nevada, some of the flat deserty area. And there was 3 lights. Pretty sure there's 3 of them. And they looked like they're reflecting in the air, like they were metallically like reflecting, and they were almost stationary, like they weren't moving. And I took a picture from out the window of it, and everyone was before when I posted years ago, they're like, it's just a reflection from inside. I mean, it's not. If you were actually on the plane and looking out the window, you could tell it's outside the airplane.
Yeah.
But no, I thought that was strange. I never did figure out what the hell that was, because there's just like these 3 reflective lights, and it's broad daylight. So it's like the sun reflecting off of whatever it was. So whatever it was had to have been metallic.
Well, I actually had one thing happen to me that I haven't told you.
Oh,
that you really know about.
Exclusive on Tinfoil Tales. Tom is telling a story that I have not heard.
It's not really much to talk about, but it
hey,
did happen to me.
Yeah.
I bought a telescope when I was in Germany, and I knew this field that I could go to because I used to go to the
light. Your Galileo.
Yes, Galileo. And I used to go to the what's that, light pollution website, and you can actually look to see where it's the darkest. And I knew this place, and I was like, oh, it's in the woods. It's got a field there. So it was me and my ex-wife and my baby. And we went out there, and I took this huge telescope with me. And I was like, oh, yeah, tonight I'm going to see. I knew that Saturn was going to be in the sky and Jupiter. And I was like, I'm going to check it out. And then once I set it up, over top the tree line on the other side of the field, maybe, I don't know, 200 feet in the air, there was I just looked, and all of a sudden appeared an orange ball.
Really?
But it wasn't bright. It wasn't shiny. It looked like an orange, not a shiny orange, but it was like an orange ball. And I said, look. And I showed my ex-wife. She looked at it. She's like, oh, wow, I see it. And then it's maybe...
Were you able to get the microscope?
No, not to the telescope, with my eyes.
Yeah.
And then as I'm looking at it, there's a video online. I've seen a guy who can call these orange balls into existence. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Yeah, but isn't that similar to what he's talking about?
No, it's not bright and glimmery and shiny.
Oh.
It was different. It was just more like like a handball or something, like a rubber handball.
Oh, like those orange hockey balls, those outdoor street hockey
but that's
balls.
so bright, like more like a dollar orange.
Okay.
But it was very noticeable, and she's seen it, and then no sooner we're looking at it, within maybe 10 seconds, just disappeared. I've seen that one time too.
Cool.
Yeah. I never seen that.
Where I live, and this is why I thought it was a flare, and even like this thing that we just saw tonight, I could say possibly it was a flare, but the way they just disappear and they're not really moving, and like the thing tonight, obviously there was more than just a flare because there was multiple lights in a row. But where I live, there's Grissom Air Force Base, which is to the south of us about 10 miles. So, and then just to a mile this way, we have the little municipal airport. So there's always flying stuff around here.
Mm-hmm.
And then, ironically, where I thought I saw the flare, that's why I never videotaped it or recorded it, because I thought it was a flare, even though they don't really test them out. There's a place down the road that used to make fuses and flares and stuff. I don't know if they still make flares, but years ago they used to. And I don't know exactly what they make these days, but back when I used to ride my bike around the block when I was a kid, because I've lived in this area my whole life, and when I rode around the block, they used to have sign out there. So they used to make torpedoes, and they used to have armed guard out there because they used to make TNT back in the 70s. So this factory that's like 2 miles from my house, I don't know if they still have all that stuff back there, but I guess if I ever blow up, someone decided to take
take a little walk,
take a smoke break, and
someone took a smoke break in the wrong area.
Skirmish.
Yeah. So I don't know if they still have the armed guard. I still see the truck out there because they have all these storage buildings and always have a truck out there. I don't know if he's actual armed or anything, but they always have this patrol guy out there. So growing up as a kid, I always thought it was funny because on the sign that said torpedoes, I was like, oh shit, they make torpedoes here.
Something you don't see very often.
Yeah. But again, that was growing up in the 90s out here in the middle of nowhere, Indiana. So.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
there's a possibility it could be, but you're saying it wasn't falling or anything like that.
No.
That's just
I've never seen them shoot off flares, so I don't know. It was in the general area of where that company is. Like, you go straight out my backyard and go that way, you're gonna go run into their place like 2 miles away. But it's why would they be testing something off at like at 9 o'clock at night? They only work until 4 o'clock, so there'd have been no one there. They work 4 days a week, 6 to 4.
Yeah.
So I know someone that works down there, so I know they don't typically go out in the middle of the night and test things.
And so you were asking us a couple minutes ago what strange things have happened to you since we moved to Mexico. I bought 4 hectares, which what is exactly 10 acres of land in the rainforest there. Excuse me. And here we're in the Mesoamerica area that the Mayans once roamed. The whole Yucatan Peninsula was Mayan, and they have these homunculuses. That's what I think we're describing them as. They're like these little forest creatures kind of thing, and they're called Alushas. I don't know if you've ever heard of these. They're kind of like what do you call them? Fairies, trolls, kind of trolls more.
Yeah, maybe like a troll, but they're very cherub kind of looking. Like children to maybe 1 to 3 feet high, children-ish looking.
Yeah, so
plump.
Yeah, and kind of chubby and naked, and they like to do things like throw rocks. And I've experienced that. I was out there at a campfire with my daughter, and I had a rock thrown at us, and I just kind of was like, okay, I'm getting tired. Let's go to bed because it's in the night. So before
we go too far with
it,
yes,
sure.
Let's. So we did have a guest on, and he told us how the Alushas are created, because they're not really a natural; they're more of a creation, which is a homunculus. It's created, and so Moises went into detail that it's a 9-day event where you create this out of like clay or like dirt, and you imbue it with corn and blood, and also your intention of what you want this creature to do, this thing to do. And it's protection of your land, of your home, along that line.
And then on the 9th day, it like disappears.
Yeah.
Sounds like a golem.
That's what a previous guest had said as well. It sound actually who had said that?
That was the last one we were just on the podcast we were on yesterday. No,
No, that was the
Tuesday?
Sasquatchers.
Sasquatchers. Shout
Yes,
out, boys.
they say Gollum, and it is kind of along that line, but a Gollum is usually much bigger. But
Yeah.
yes, a homunculus is a Gollum as well. Like a homunculus is like the main, and they kind of branch off. So you could have the Aloosh, you could have the Gollum, you could have just about any other type of creation that you've made. But yes, and so it's elementalish.
Yes.
Yeah,
And they're kind of like mischievous a little bit. They're not really, they're not necessarily like evil or have malintent, but they're a little weird, man, because I've had the rock thrown at me, and you hear these stories because I come here, I don't know anything about this stuff. And so if you, by the way, even though it doesn't matter, it's about 1 kilometer off the road, which is about almost 1.8 of a mile, I think, almost a mile off the road. And I'm in the middle of nowhere. I have solar panels and pumps and wells and my own stuff, and I'm just off grid because of what happened in 2020. And so I'm out there, and so I have a small cabin. It's not very big. It's a wood cabin. It's just a place where you can sleep because you don't need to go inside. It's not cold in the winter here, so you don't have to have any heating. You need more cooling than heating. But I got water, and the ocean's not far away. I can always go swimming or whatever. And so the only thing you have to watch out for is mosquitoes. So I have like these 2 big porch areas that I have hammocks in, that I sleep in a hammock outside in the jungle. So I hear all the animals. I got jaguars nearby and snakes and all that stuff. And so there was an evening, the first thing that happened, other than the rock being thrown, I'm out there sleeping in a hammock, and I wake up to go to the bathroom like I always do in the middle of the night, at least once or twice, especially with my old man bladder now. And
I feel that.
Yeah, I'll be 44 in February. So you said you grew up in the 90s. I imagine we're a similar age.
I'll be 40 in February.
Oh, okay. So, okay. All right. Yeah, close enough. And so I'm trying to go back to sleep in a hammock, and on my left side of my ear, I'm just about to go to sleep, and I hear this whispering in my ear, like someone, and it's I don't understand what they're saying, and I don't understand the syntax or the language or anything. And it freaked me out so much, I threw like a punch to my left side because I could have swore there was somebody there, and of course there was nobody.
You can remember you telling me it was a female voice?
Yes, there was a female voice the first time, and then later, so that was before I built the add-on.
Yeah.
So then now the second section that I sleep in, my daughter sleeps in a hammock outside too.
Disembodied voices.
They're like the freakiest thing to run into. Personally, I think they're one of the scariest things. My personal opinion. I wake up around 3:00, and I hear like banging on because I have like a metal roof, and I hear like this. It's kind of rhythmic, and it's kind of not rhythmic. It doesn't have a like a time signature of 3. You're a musician, 3/4 or 4/4 or anything of that nature.
Yeah.
No 5/4, no polyrhythms, nothing like this. And speaking your language now. We make Wright confused because he always gets me on this technology stuff.
You got me perked up when he said polyrhythms. I was like, ooh.
Yeah, you like that? Yeah, Meshuggah.
Yeah.
One of my favorite bands. And so, but it's like intermediate, but when it's in timing, but it's also not. It's hard to describe, I guess you would say. So I'm like looking around, and above my daughter, like there's a glow on the metal roof from below, and there's no orb like Ryan thought it was, but it's not an orb. So it looks like there's like a flashlight shining it, but it's like an LED. It's like white and blue like together, but it's not intense. But you can see it moving above her. And once I go to look at where the source is, it disappears. So about a week after that, I hear it again on my right side. So she's like over in front of me to the left, and this is on my right side. I hear banging sideways there's a metal area there too. That's a shower. And I'm thinking it's my dogs, and my dogs sleep outside. And I think like one's banging his tail on the thing, but once again, it's kind of rhythmic, but not. And I look over, and now instead of being above on the roof, it's vertically on the wall, the same type of light. And once again, I go to look to see where it's coming from, and it disappears again. So I kind of like just go, well, there it is again, and kind of try to relax and go back to sleep. And then behind me, outside of the screen, about say 20 yards behind me to the left, I hear whispering these voices again. Female voice. It's not English. It's not Spanish. I don't know what it is. I guess maybe Mayan. And I just kind of look back and just ignore it, and it just goes away. So it's what doing the podcast and being with this guy, because he's got a little bit of experience in how to deal with these things a little bit. He's a little bit more knowledgeable than I am. It's because if I without you, I'd actually be pretty terrified. Thanks, Roy.
Hey,
and
help you out some way, right?
Yeah, one way or another, there's something here that he helps me out with. So meeting the weird guy in Rye is actually, and also maybe doing the podcast has kind of brought this energy into my life too.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's elevated. Like when you start messing with it, delving into it, it starts to increase in intensity and frequency.
And also the thing when we first started to do the podcast, we were at your father.
Yeah, I was telling him we're at my in-laws' place, and I was saying, oh yeah, I see a lot of movement. The shadow, and I want to say shadow is in like the actual shadow person, but there's shadows that are moving, or like smoky type figures moving past and everything like that. I said I see that a lot in this house.
He's telling me this, right?
Yeah, and I told him this, and I'm like, oh yeah, I saw one the other day, and I was telling him about it, and then we're sitting there, and I'm facing him, he's facing me, which is looking inside to the kitchen area, and all of a sudden he's like this, and go.
Yeah, there's like an island in the kitchen, and between the island and there's a space, and then there's the wall, and just like real quick, like within like you just see like this,
like something move across,
misty figure like come across and go into the wall, and I go, dude, I just seen what you were talking about. You go, you did? And I go, yeah. He mentioned it like literally, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes before.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just seen it. And I was like, in my mind, because that's what happens a lot of times, is like out of the periphery of your eye, which is kind of why it's one of our taglines on our show, Lost Frequency Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. And that's what you see. So you're like, did I see that? And, him saying it and then me seeing it kind of reconfirmed the fact that I actually did.
You say periphery, and I always think of the band when I listen to your guys' episodes.
Oh, periphery.
They're one of my favorite bands.
Really?
Yeah. The Black Dahlia Murder is my favorite band, but
he just killed himself. Like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The shitty thing is I never got to see them live.
No, I missed them too. Did you? My favorite band is Yob, but no one knows who they are.
That makes you sound elitist.
No, I'm not elitist. It's actually, they opened for Tool a long time ago, man. And Tool's my second favorite band. Yeah. But like, and then
Yob. Are they like the ones who dress up all kind of crazy? And
no, that's Guar.
Oh, Guar.
I think you're thinking of Guar.
I have seen Guar, and
that's weird.
Guar was the most. I will say it was a fun show, even though I didn't plan on being covered in blood and Hitler semen and whatever else the hell they shot out into the crowd. But that's what happened.
No, Yob's like a 3-piece psychedelic doom metal band with songs that average like 13 minutes. Yeah. Slow, very. Check it out. Listen to the song called "In Our Blood." Go check that out. Just tell me what you think. It's very.
I should have you come on the Dark Side of the Scene podcast here. Start back up.
We'll do that. I'll come over. Just hook me up. I'll come on your podcast. We can talk about anything you want, dude. Yeah. So back to the spooky stuff.
Yeah. Most of the listeners on here are like, I don't want to listen to that band shit.
Rye's over here too, going like.
So, what about yourself? What kind of event or thing caused you or pushed you in this direction?
I'll edit this part out from my own episode, just because I don't like beating a dead horse. I've talked about another podcast, but I don't like to make my own podcast about myself.
Fair enough.
But I will. I'll leave this section in, though, because I've talked about it before, and there's been some updates going on recently. And you just mentioned when you start looking into things, it amplifies stuff.
Yes.
I was warned last year when I started this podcast that when you choose someone randomly on Facebook, I was looking for guests, and they said, I worry about you and your family. I said, who the fuck's this person? Like, what? And they're like, I was like, why? And they said, when you start looking into things start looking back. I was like, all right, there, Mr. Whatever.
Nietzsche. Yeah, isn't that Nietzsche? When you look into the abyss there, be careful.
Mr. Obscurity.
Yeah, I was like, whatever. And it wasn't much longer after that, my daughter started having bad dreams. And at the time, she's 3. She's now 4. She'll be 5 in February. But when I started the podcast, it was last summer, so... She was 3, started having these bad dreams. And I started doing that other podcast back in March of this year. And I kind of took a hiatus from Tinfoil Tales because we were recording like 3 or 4 episodes of band stuff. It's so much easier to find musicians that want to come on and talk than people with experiences. Like every band person, like, oh, I can come on there and talk about my band. All right, I'm coming on there. And we had like 50 episodes recorded by June. Like, and we had less.
Yeah.
We were recording like 3 to 4 episodes a week. And I didn't have time for this, but I do a backlog. So I already have like 12 episodes recorded right now for Tinfoil Tales because I record a couple episodes a week.
Yeah.
The other podcasts were on a hiatus. She stopped having the night issues. She would sleep through the night while I wasn't doing this podcast. Since I've started doing this podcast again, she has been having sleeping issues. Now, when we first moved into the house, we just bought this house in the Beast era, 2020. And the very first week that we moved in, well, it was before we moved in, I was in here painting. And I had a little miniature schnauzer, which he was only here for about 2 months, and we had to put him to sleep because he was old. He's 13. And
poor guy.
But he was in the living room, and I'm in the kitchen painting. And the way our house is set up, like the kitchen's over here and the living room's behind, so it's just a wall that divides it. And in the living room, it's a wood floor, and there's a specific spot where you step, and it goes, it does it all the time. It still does it. So obviously it's a loose board on the floor or whatever.
Yeah.
I heard that noise, and he starts growling. So I poked my head around the corners, like, and he's growling at nothing. There's nothing in there. I was like, come here, Jax. I picked him up, took him in the kitchen with me, and I put him in his little, not his pet taxi, but he had like it was almost like a cage that he stayed in. It was open to get in and out when he wanted to, but I just put him in his bed.
Yeah.
And he just kept growling. The whole time he was in there, just growling. I was like, all right, whatever. This is weird. So I'm just painting. Went about my business. And then we'd moved in, I think it was maybe 2 weeks, 1 week, 2 weeks. I think it was about 2 weeks. Our bedrooms are at the other end of the house, and our room's here. My daughter's room is here. Then my son's room's here. We're in our room, and you know the old pull-down blinds? Our house was built in 1978 or 79, so it's not super old. It's the old roll-up blinds. We had it pulled down. My wife and I are laying in bed. We're still talking like we'd just laid down. The blind just unwinds. We start laughing. It scared the crap out of us. We're just like, oh, whatever. No big deal. Well, my daughter at the time, she was only 1. She was about to turn 2 in February. We have a baby monitor in there. It's got a camera and obviously a mic so you can hear what's going on. Right after that rolled up, just a minute or two, we hear mine through the baby monitor. Very low, like manly sounding mine.
Dude, you're gonna give me, that's freaking me out.
We ran and got her out of that room. I said, She come and slept in our bed because I was like, I understand monitors could pick up other things. That's too friggin' coincidental for me.
Yeah.
So we went and got her. We put her in her bed. Said, A few days go by. My wife's changing her diaper, putting on clothes or whatever. On her back, she notices 3 very long scratch marks.
Oh my God, dude.
3 is very important because that is
the Trinity.
The Trinity. I went through the house after this and I banished whatever I could. I threatened it. I said, don't come after my child. If only a pussy would come after a baby, like come after me. If you want to come after someone, I was like, you are not welcome here. Did all that stuff. Literally have not had any problems. And then she started the sleep issues. And now the sleep issues are back. She's coming into our bedroom. Well, my son, who was born in June of 2021, so he's 2.5 right now, he's just now started to want to sleep in our bed. He barely talks. Like, he says things here and he'll say daddy or baba or whatever. Like, my daughter was talking so well at 1 and 2, like, and for him only being 2, I was like, what's wrong with you, buddy? Why aren't you talking? Because I was so used to her being He just seems like he's a little slower than what she is about development stuff, but he talks. Last night we're laying in bed, and I shit you not, this is what he says. Oh, Daddy. He points right above our bed. Ghost. He does not speak well enough to know what the fuck a ghost is.
Wow.
I don't talk about stuff like that. He doesn't hear me talk. I'm down in the basement. I don't watch shows upstairs with it. He has no idea what that is. He gets right up next to his mother, and he's shaking. He's scared. He keeps pointing, saying ghost, right above our bed. I went and got him a bottle, got him to go to sleep. 4:30 in the morning, he wakes up. Daddy, Baba. I was like, all right. So I get out of bed to go get him one. And as I'm walking to the door, he goes, oh, Daddy, ghost gone. My wife's like, did you hear him? It's like, yeah, I heard him. Now, I understand kids say things. Whatever. So you have to, and he's 2. I don't know where he would learn ghost. Mm-hmm. That's a very unique word for him to say ghost. He's never said it before. I don't watch ghost stuff. I don't talk about ghost stuff.
No Scooby-Doo.
No, but the creepy part about the whole ghost thing, you have to go back to the original part when we first moved in. After I got rid of whatever was in here, that's what I thought. A few months go by, my daughter mysteriously has a imaginary friend. And again, like I said, she's 2 at this point. And her friend is named Chloe. Very strange name for her to come up with.
Yes.
Yeah.
She said her friend is Chloe. Like, and if anyone wants to doubt what I'm saying, I have videos. I will gladly show you videos of my 2-year-old talking in plain sentences and everything. Like I say she's a gifted child. I said she is the genius baby. She is my
protege.
Yeah, like she's my little genius baby. She's always been smart, always been excelling. She's been potty trained before. She's like just super smart child. And she had this imaginary friend named Chloe. Well, I'm already being superstitious anyways because of the shit I look into and interested in and stuff like that. I was like, oh, really? What's she look like? Well, she's purple. I was like, oh, she's purple? Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, that's because she's dead.
That's what I was thinking. Like purple because they're dead. That's exactly what
she literally. I was like, how would a 2-year-old know? I was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, she's a ghost. I said, Chloe is not welcome in my house. Chloe needs to leave. Like, there is no Chloe anymore.
Yeah. Yes.
So I said, Chloe's not allowed to be here anymore. She still talked about it. She told my mom that Chloe pushed her off the bed one time.
Whoa.
And I was actually talking to my mom about all this stuff today. She thinks by me doing this podcast, I'm bringing in these demonic spirits. So I was like, well, like, I don't know if that's true, but at this point, I don't really know. And basically, I asked my daughter to draw me what she sees because she's been saying she's been having nightmares. So the picture she drew today. Now, this is where everyone's always full of shit. No, I swear on everything. Last night, in the middle of all this going on, I had a dream about basically asking my daughter to draw me what she was seeing.
Yeah.
So that's why I woke up and had her do it because I dreamed this.
Perfect.
What she drew is similar to my dream, but it wasn't the same color. My colors, what she drew was like a bluish color. What she picked today was red. And I drew what I thought she'd drawn for me as like almost like a purpley color. Because again, I tried to draw what she described Chloe as.
Okay.
And I showed her that. But in my dream, she told me his name was Remy.
That's a weird name.
I said, this is again a dream. She doesn't know Remy or anything like that. But very strange that her friend, the demon, was named Remy. So I got online and tried to find like if there's a demonic name.
I was actually just about to pull up my cell phone. I'm like, okay,
Remy. And I didn't. There is a Japanese anime cartoon with a demon named Remy that is a supposedly, I think it was said it was a sleep paralysis demon from some Japanese cartoon or comic or something like that. I don't know. I don't watch that stuff, so I have no idea. But I didn't find anything besides some actual like French guy named Remy that was like a demonologist and some stuff like I don't know. So the name I don't know if it verifies, but in my dream I remembered saying that that's not really the demon or really the name because a demon wouldn't tell you its real name.
Mm.
So that was just a weird dream that I had, and then whatever she drew, it had similar like dark hair, but everything on it was red. But she told me what she dreamed. She said it's a brown monster with red glowing eyes. But that's why she can't sleep in her bedroom at night because she keeps waking up and saying she's having nightmares because the monsters are always trying to cover her eyes. I said, why are they trying to cover your eyes? And she drew it looked like a potato. I was like, they try and cover your eyes with a potato? She said, no, it's a sponge. I was like, why would monsters be covering your eyes with a sponge? Again, she's 4, she'll be 5 in February, so at this point she already talks about some stuff, but no. She now she told me that Chloe wasn't purple, Chloe was red. I was like, well, 2 years ago you said she was purple because she was dead, she was a ghost. But my wife asked her tonight, where's Chloe at? She's like, she's not here anymore. She's like, where'd she go? She's like, she's on the other side. And she's like, what are you talking about? Other side. She's like, the other side of town? We're like, oh, okay. She's like, well, no, not town. She's like, the other side of the whole world, you know. She's
whoa.
And my wife looked back at me. I was like, just stop. I don't want to.
Don't ask no more questions.
I'm too paranoid at this point. Just stop. So,
have you ever considered getting your house cleansed? Maybe.
Well, that's what I've been thinking. Like, I don't know if anyone. And this is weird for me to talk about it because, like I said, I'm always skeptical on everything, and I feel like when I went through the house again today after they went to school, my wife went to work, took my 2-year-old to daycare, and I had to go to work. Before I left to go to work, I went through every nook and cranny of this house, and I did the same thing I did 3 years ago, and like told it it's not welcome here. I used Jesus Christ's name. Like, I'm not even religious, but I'll throw out whatever I can to try and get rid of this spirit. I said any type of negative energy, negative spirit, demonic presence, anything evil and unholy is not welcome here, and you're not allowed to be here.
Exactly.
So, does it work? I have no idea. Is there
would that be the best way to go about it?
Well, that's one of the ways to go about it, and not to believe that you need to believe it though. That's the key. That is like the placebo, almost a placebo type effect. You have to believe it works because then you give it that much more power, that much more strength.
Yeah, and that's where I struggle because I try not to even believe there's anything here because I feel like if I believe it, I'm giving it power.
You are, and that is true. You are, but when if you're just ignoring it though, but and if your children see it,
mm-hmm.
They're already giving it that power. So, denying your children, like saying there's nothing here when there actually is kind of like,
double whammy.
Yeah. You're kind of like denying, saying you're not telling me the truth, even though you are kind of believing them. As
I always chalked it up to like, they were just, like my daughter, her imaginary friend. I was like, well, it's creepy, but she's 2. I was like, she watches Bluey. Bluey's best friend is named Chloe. So I figured that's where she come up with the name.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I always look for the rational reasons as to why they came up.
Of course, yes.
And I was like, well, Chloe's a dog, but she's not purple, but whatever. And she told my mom she had purple hair. She told me today that she was red. I was like, well, you told us before she was purple because she was dead. That she was a ghost.
Yeah.
I was like, I remember that specifically. I was like, you might not remember 2 years ago. I was like, but I didn't forget that shit. Like, that's one of those things that's going to make you like.
Yeah. When you're in your deathbed, you're going to be like, oh my God, she said it was purple and dead.
Well, this afternoon, I have 2 dogs. I have an old boxer that, again, she's old, so we don't know how much longer. She's got like hip dysplasia at this point. And then I have a German Shepherd that just turned 3. She's an all-white German Shepherd. I tried to send the Shepherd into my daughter's room because it seems, for whatever reason, her bedroom is always cold. And for some reason, in the very corner of the house in the wintertime, there'd be water that would come from the ceiling. It wasn't leaking. It was like moisture would just form up in the corner. Couldn't figure out why. Well, the way our house is, the well is directly out her window and goes right underneath into the crawl space of her section. Because for some reason, half this house is a basement. Like I'm in the basement. Next to me over here is the crawl space where the bedrooms and everything are. The well tank and everything is right under her room. They claim water is a source of energy.
Conduit.
Yes. Yeah. And it's right under her bedroom. So I'm like, shit. Like, I think her room is the center of this. So I sent the dog into her room to see if the dog had any, like,
reaction.
It went in, it went whoop, right back out. And instantly, every part of I'm getting again right now, every part of my body got goosebumps. Like, I just felt it as I tried to go in the doorway. Like, as soon as the dog came out, I got goosebumps. I have them right now just talking about it because it creeped me the frick out because the dog did not want to go in there.
Huh.
And I figured animals really sense that type of stuff. But she goes in there, she plays with toys, and the dog will go in there and lay beside of her. So, like, this one instance when I wanted the dog to go in there, maybe she thought she was in trouble because I'm trying to push her into a room, so she didn't want to go in there.
Here's a question, though. Was your daughter in the room?
No, there was no one home but me.
Okay, so your dog is going and sitting with your daughter to protect her, to be with her, to protect her kind of thing, sit there, and then you're pushing the dog in for no reason. There's nothing to protect at that point. So it's like, probably I don't want to be in there.
Yeah.
For the very reason why
the dog is very, very protective of the two kids.
There you go.
So, but the dog doesn't ever seem to be weirded out. Like if I come down the basement, she'll follow me down here if I leave the door open. Like she just, and being a German Shepherd, she's naturally going to be protective anyways.
Yeah.
And no, if the kids are in their bedrooms playing, she'll lay in the hallway right in front of their doors. Because like I said, there's my door, her door, and then my son's door, like all three. And I built bedrooms down here in the basement for the older kids. So they live in the basement, which I figured they'd think was creepy. They don't ever talk about anything strange down here. It just seems to all resonate up in my daughter's bedroom.
Wow. Interesting. Especially over top of the well, and that ties into if you don't mind me continuing on, I can tell you a story too.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the house that I built a house. I'm not saying like I constructed it, but I did a lot of work within that house. And we had what's called a sump pump. What that is there's like a drainage pit around the house, and you put like this weeping tile, this porous pipe all around the house to collect any standing water, or if there's a high water table, it's going to collect that water and pump it out and pump it down into the storm drain. Now, I could always hear it running. Like I could always hear water coming into the house. So we're talking flowing water. And this house had I tie it in with a little bit of a poltergeist activity due to my ex at that time, because she definitely had some demons with her. Now, what was going on was in this house, it started in the middle of the night, and we used to watch like these ghost hunter shows all the time. And so what had started was the light would start going on and off on the ceiling light, which was also a ceiling fan, would go and change in intensity. And it did have a dimmer on it. Like it would go, you could change the intensity to go on and off. But this would start only, and I don't quote me on the times it would start. It would start at least like 1 or 2 in the morning and go to about 3 or 4 in the morning. And it would go on for maybe sometimes 10, 15 minutes, sometimes an hour. And this went on for almost a year. I'd say we'll say closer to 6 months. But the light would go on and off in intensity. The fan would increase and decrease, and it would just be like this, to the point that I'm not getting any sleep at night, and I'm going almost insane. Like this is what is going on now. So that was going on. Now her daughter became extremely, extremely ill with something. We'd take her to doctors, and they're like, no, there's nothing wrong. We're running all these tests. This one doctor like started yelling at her and stop faking. You're faking. Like, this is what the doctor is yelling at her. That's awesome. When I was in this house, and I remember while she was sick, I was sitting in the office, and up in front of me was this black smoke, and it was like moving all around. It was kind of like undulating, or I don't know, just changing shape and constantly. And I said kind of more to myself, but like, get out of here. You don't belong. What you did, and at that time I didn't know much of anything, but I was just like, I need to tell it to get out and leave my wife's daughter, ex-wife, her daughter alone. And you're not welcome here. You need to get out. And it was about 3 to 4 days later, she was fine after that. And she was sick for about a month and a half. Wow. So that was that one experience. Like, this was all compounding. Then my ex, she had her friend come over. Her friend's mom is a medium, and it kind of passed down through the lineage to her. She has some gifts, and we set her up a bed in the basement, and I'd finished the basement. It was all ready to go, and I woke up in the morning and she's sleeping upstairs on the couch, and I'm like, oh, you didn't like the basement? And she didn't tell me, but she's like, no, I just want to sleep upstairs. And she eventually told my ex, she's like, yeah, there's some old lady in your basement. There's a woman in your basement I saw. Another experience that happened in that house was my ex, when she was running on the treadmill, the breaker flipped. So, okay, I guess power surges, it's from the treadmill, draws a lot. The breaker flipped. And she's like, okay. So she started walking to the mechanical room where the breaker box was, and it flipped back on. It turned back on by itself. Now, flipping off, okay, it happens. Turning back on, that cannot happen. No, it doesn't happen. And then another experience, and this is actually right around the same time when her friend was saying that she wouldn't sleep in the basement. I think it was like the same weekend. They had went out for the night, and I was at home by myself. And I wasn't feeling well. All of a sudden, I started getting really sick. And so I went in, and that's my thing. If I don't feel well, I go into the shower. I always feel comfort in the shower, hot water pouring on for anything. That's my thing. So I went in the shower, and when I came out, we have a separate tub outside, like in the bathroom, but it's separate from the shower. Both taps were on, and it was just pouring water out.
Wow.
And at that point, I was a little terrified. At that point, I'm like, turn them off. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go to bed and not sleep, not remember any of this. Try not to remember any of this. But yeah,
if the faucets were running, I'd be paranoid they're gonna flood me out while I'm sleeping.
Right? Yeah, someone hits that drain or plugs the overflow. Yeah, what the hell is gonna go? Yeah, that was a creepy experience. I haven't talked about that one much at all.
You told me some of it, but I don't remember the water part.
Okay, yeah,
I think we've all experienced like weird things, like, and I've mentioned this a few times. Just a few weeks ago, well, it's probably been about 2 months ago now, I was walking to go to the bathroom, and I swear I heard my oldest daughter say, "Hey, Dad," as I walked past her because she's in the kitchen doing homework. And I turned around and like just looked at her, and she's doing homework. I was like, "What?" And she looks up, she's like, stares at me. I was like, "Did you not just say, 'Hey, Dad'?" She's like, "No." The preteen eye roll or whatever. I'm like,
yep.
Okay. I just went on about my business, but I was like, I swear I heard her say, "Hey, Dad," and her voice, everything. Like, so I was like, is that paranormal, or is that just me having brain problems at this rate?
I've heard things like that before.
This is a common thing. Like, I've heard it too, where I swear someone said my name or my wife, she called me, and I'm like, yeah, what? She's like, I didn't say anything. I'm like, no, you called me, like you and it's vice versa. She's had, she had someone, when you're talking about disembodied voices, she had someone whispering in her ear when we were in the last house in Canada before we moved here. Oh, wow. Someone would wake her up and whisper in her ear, say her name, say our daughter's name, and whispering in her ear. And she's like,
yeah, I don't know. Like, for me, when it comes to stuff like this, and I've always been trying to look for rational explanations or write it off as something that I can explain, but there's certain things that I just cannot explain. And I guess if you want to hear why I actually do the podcast, I can actually bust out the real story of the biggest encounter that I had. That I've talked about it a few times on other stuff, and I've wrote a book kind of influenced by it and everything else. But
yeah,
I'll
plug your book.
Plug your book. Yes.
The book is called Shadows of Cedarville. It's, if you get it from like Barnes & Noble or Walmart's bookstore or whatever, you can order it all. It's off-centered. You see how it's off-centered? It drives me crazy. You get it from Amazon, it's centered. I don't understand why. Everywhere else but Amazon is off-centered, so that drives me insane.
That's true.
But
ADD.
Yeah. But basically,
OCD. Excuse me.
OCD, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a musician thing on certain things. you have to be 100% perfect when you're playing music and in time and everything else. So everything to me, I've always had to make sure it's perfect.
Depends on what you're playing, but sure. Yeah, I got you.
I don't know. I suck at keeping time as a vocalist because I don't play anything else. So they're playing like 7/4 stuff. I'm like, all right, what am I supposed to do here?
Yeah. You got to get your own timing, and then yes, oh yeah, that's hard.
But anyways, so this happened back in 2007, and for 15 years I never talked about it. And then for some strange reason, it was the winter of, not this past winter, it was like the winter before, so 2021 into 2022. One of my coworkers, he had originally been in the Air Force, I think it was, and he was in Alaska. And I have a little keychain. It's got like a little Sasquatch on it. So him being from Alaska, I was like, so you ever see a Bigfoot while you're up there? And he didn't really say much about it. And for whatever reason, I just felt really compelled to tell him about what happened. I was like, well, he's either going to think I'm crazy or he's going to talk to me about it. And after I told him what I just told you guys, he just sat there in silence. Like, well, he thinks I'm a fucking lunatic. And, but I felt better about talking about it. Like, I felt like just telling a complete stranger, pretty much, that I felt a little bit better about it. And during Beast Era 2020, we didn't have a whole lot we could do. Yeah. Couldn't do any of that stuff. So I'd had a long drive for work. Where I was working at was like an hour and a half away. So I was kind of depressed about the whole music thing. So I started checking out podcasts, and I was always about conspiracy stuff. So that's why I was like, you know what? I want to name a podcast. I want to talk about alien stuff. I want to talk about conspiracies. I want to talk about how they're not letting us do anything because of this crazy beast stuff going on. And like, so I was like, I tried to think of a name. I was like, oh, Tinfoil Tales. You wear a tinfoil hat. People like me that talk about stuff like this. So I had all these cool ideas. I was like, I bet no one's talking about this. And I started looking for podcasts. I was like, oh shit, there are so many.
Everyone's talking about it.
Yeah. So I've had the name for a while. I never did anything with it. So I just kind of sat on it. And then after I discovered a couple different podcasts and I listened to them for a while. They interviewed people. I was like, it wasn't what I wanted to set off to do. Like, again, I wanted to make this podcast more like to talk about conspiracies and alien, like stuff like that. But it ended up turning into what it is today with like people interviewing for experiences because I felt better about talking about it. So I thought maybe I could give a platform for other people to share their stuff so they could feel better too. I was like, and selfishly, it makes me feel better when I hear other people that had these same types of experiences because it's like reaffirms to myself that I'm not insane.
Right. Yes,
so
it makes complete and utter sense.
So that's why I do what I do. And I've gotten people to give me a bunch of crap because of the name, because they say I'm making fun of people. I was like, you've literally never listened to my podcast.
Yeah.
Like, I have not made fun of anyone. I was like, the whole tinfoil thing was derived from me making fun of my own self for being a tinfoil hat wearer. Like, it's kind of a pun. It's not making fun of people. It's like literally just saying.
Well, you're taking the moniker of like everybody calls it, oh, you're a tinfoil, where's the tinfoil hat? And well, you're like, sure, yeah, I'm gonna own it. And it's not necessarily conspiracy theories, but it's conspiracy truths.
Yeah. I've tried to explain that to people too. Like, I'm not going to air anything. Like, I've had some episodes in the past that nowadays, like when I first started out, I didn't know a whole lot about what we were doing. I'm starting to be more specific when I want to. There's certain topics that I'm going to be more lenient to cover than other ones, because sometimes I've had people on there and I've had people email me, oh, that person's full of crap, this and that. And then, why didn't you background check this person? And I looked up the person after the fact and they're, yeah. So I have to be more, I guess, safe about who I bring on, just because my thing is I'm doing a podcast. It's hard to vet every single person. I'm not going to pay people to do a background check on someone that wants to come on there and talk to me. They saw a Bigfoot. Like,
exactly.
Like, but for whatever reason, people are always going to hate on something that you do.
That means you're doing something right.
Yeah.
I got my first piece of hate on the other day. My first comment.
I'm so proud of his.
It's hilarious. I love
his hate comment.
Yeah, I got my first hate comment. Someone goes, "This guy's too animated and he moves his head all the time." And
not necessarily a hate comment, just
and I'm like, that means I'm doing something right. because that's someone, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
I got
So-
one the other day that, even though they must not listen, but so they didn't even talk about experience. They just circle jerked each other the whole time. I was like, you didn't listen to like after the first 10 minutes because he's literally talked about all the stuff that he's experienced, but whatever.
Hey, that means he was listening. Hey, he listened for 10 minutes.
No.
Yeah, it's like good enough, man.
No.
Yeah.
But no, that's
a fantastic tale. I do have a question. So, how do you think the headless, armless corpse torso walking thing was related to the dog man? Like, was it the same thing, or was it two separate things?
this is where I get hung up on it at. Basically, the dog was not nearly as big as whatever was walking. Whatever was walking was so much taller, and its legs were super thick. Like, it had trunky legs. And the dog had normal proportionate for its size. Like, if my German Shepherd, she stands up, she's only going to come up to about right here on me.
Yeah.
This thing was, like I said, I'm 6'3", so it's a very big dog. Someone said could have been a wolf. I mean, maybe. They're like, oh, you saw a black bear. Well, I live in Indiana. We don't have black bear, but we also don't have upright walking canines either. So, I mean,
there's that.
Yeah. Difference is I know what a bear looks like, and bears don't have pointy ears. They don't have big bushy tails. They don't have.
Well, you also know what dogs look like, and you also know that dogs don't stand up like that and have their arms hang down to their side.
Yeah. What I've wrote it off as for 15 years, this is literally what I've always tried to rationalize it. No supernatural elements to it. I said this was a dog that was screwing around with this mouse. The mouse was traumatized because this dog was licking it, playing with it, whatever, and someone must have hit this dog and broke its front legs. So when we first drove up, the dog's flopping around, flailing around because it can't use its front legs because they're broken. So that explains why when it stood up, it's off to its sides because it broke its
legs or whatever.
Yeah. That all, sure, that's what it is. That's what happened. That's why the dog looked at me. That's why it stood up. That's the logical explanation, and that's what I accepted for 15 years because that's what makes sense. But what does not make sense is how big and thick the first thing that was walking in the road was. I cannot say it was the dog as much as I want to because it was so much taller and the legs were so much thicker.
And was that covered with hair as well? I think you said it was. I
didn't see anything. It was literally just solid black. Like, there was no, like, my headlights were right on it as it was flopping around, moving glitchily in the center of the road. And people have said, well, it was like a shadow man. I mean, it didn't have a head or arms, and if it was a shadow man, it's like a shadow man Bigfoot because it's about the size of it.
Yeah, I was saying maybe it was like a Bigfoot manifesting into this reality. Like, that's how it was first coming through.
I've had two different people have told me that the first thing I saw was a Sasquatch, and it probably got done beating the crap out of a dog man. And then someone else had said that maybe they were in tangent together. Like, because sometimes you see Bigfoot, you also see Sasquatch, but you see dog man, yeah.
Or maybe it was morphing between one into the other. Like in between the two stages.
Someone on Reddit said that I was abducted. We were both abducted by aliens, and these were just implanted memories put in our brains because we couldn't process what else was going on. I was like, well, we weren't missing any time, but I guess sounds like the Sandown clown type stuff where they saw this clown thing. But I'm not going to say it's aliens because I don't think it was that. Is it a interdimensional being manifesting into our world? Sure, maybe. I don't know. Like I said, at the end of the day, I'll never know. And I've never experienced anything like that again. I've lived here my whole life.
Yeah.
I drive by this place every day almost because it's right down the road. Never experienced it again. I've never seen anything again.
But that's incredible.
I've never heard anything like that.
Two things, like the dogman kind of thing is almost like it's definitely like you saw a different sort of dogman. It reminds me a bit of Bettina Moss's version of a dogman. Not like hers looked differently, but it
had like blue eyes and more pit bully looking.
Yeah. But the way it acted, it kind of seems more like not like this vicious dog man that like Matt was talking about.
Right.
And
his was larger.
His had yellow eyes though too. But
I think his was larger though.
Oh yeah, no, it was immensely. Immensely larger. But that's yeah. I think it was more along that line. Like but I have no idea. And that headless, armless corpse thing that was walking. That like not only did you see that, you got to see like this German Shepherd type dog man. So interesting.
It's like something. I don't know why, but it reminds me of something like from that game Silent Hill.
Oh yeah,
from back in the day.
Yeah,
like there's like things. I don't know how to explain it.
The twitchy nurse things.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not even a big game guy either. I don't really play games.
I never really played Silent Hill, but I liked the movie, so I remember the movie part of it.
Crazy,
but
that was a crazy, it's a crazy tale, dude. I don't. You wrote a book. You had to get it out.
Well, the book is basically like the first chapter is literally what I told you guys, and it's about a guy that became, like I said, it's heavily influenced from myself, but it's a fictional novel. So I got you. So the first instance is this guy, he experiences basically what I experienced, and he starts a podcast and looks into this stuff, and then he tries to figure out what's going on, and then basically goes into like a lot of Dogman lore, and then a lot of stuff. So like the first chapter, the first 2 or 3 chapters are actually more or less stuff that I do, and then the rest of it just became like a fictionalized psychological horror story.
Fantastic, dude.
I love it.
It's it came out in September. To be honest, I wrote it in like 4 days. It's only like 150 pages, but I used if I didn't actually experience it, and if I didn't like use part of my own podcasting, like from interviews and listening to other, I couldn't have built the story so quickly. But to be honest, I wrote the book because someone on Reddit pissed me off. I'd pasted what had happened. I'd shared it on one of the forums on there, one of the subreddits on there, and someone started critiquing how I wrote. I was like, I'm literally talking about my encounter, and they're like, well, I don't understand why you didn't give a very good description of what the first thing was. Like, why didn't you say what more details? I told you literally what the fuck it had. Like, I just saw a black shape. So I was like, and they're like, well, I was like, you're going to critique me. I said, I'm not a novelist. I don't write. I was like, I'm not a writer.
Are you sure you conjugated that irregular verb correctly? Go fuck yourself, dude.
Yeah. So I said, you know what? Screw it. I have a book that came out prior to this. I basically took the transcripts from some of my other episodes because I thought it was cool, because you can get on Amazon, if you sign it, you can get your own books made. I made an own book for myself. So I have Tinfoil Tales, which is basically like 14, I think, transcripts that I had. I just put them in, took the transcripts, I pasted them over there, and I have like a book called Tinfoil Tales, which is basically some of the interviews that I'd done. Cool. I thought that was cool that I had a book. Like, yeah, it sold like 14 copies, and it was only for people that I knew around here that ordered one. But when I wrote this book, I was like, well, fuck that guy or girl or whatever it was. I don't know. That Reddit person. I was like, I'm going to show you. I'm going to write a book now. So this is my first attempt at writing a book, and I'll probably never write another book, but it sold about 150 copies. So I guess it's, I don't know. I guess people want to read it. So I guess that's cool.
That is awesome. In your face, Reddit person.
Yes. Thank you, Reddit person, for pissing me off.
Yeah. And give you that extra push to sell 150 copies of your first, second book.
Yeah. I'm a hyperfixator, my wife says, because literally I got home on a Friday, I started writing, and I wrote all weekend. And I finished it on a Monday. I was like, I'm not going to stop. I wrote it all on my phone. Like, I was writing in the notes of my iPhone, and then I would email sections to myself, and I had to try and put it all together.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Well, congratulations on that one.
Yeah, thank you. Like I said, it's my first and probably only real written book that I don't think I'm ever going to write another one. So.
You never know, man. You never know.
Yeah. But now, as far as the dog thing, the shadow thing, or whatever the hell it was, I don't think I'll ever really know. But that's what I do, because clearly someone else had to have seen some crazy stuff too.
Exactly. And that's one thing we found. We just found so many people with so many stories, yeah, we're booked out pretty far too. It's crazy, and people are now contacting us and wanting to come on, and So many stories, so many experience. I don't want to say stories because I know we say that. I do. It's just natural to call it a story, but it's experiences. So
That's
many
what I've been trying to
experiences.
catch myself doing too, is saying experiences, because I've gotten lectured by insulting people for calling their stuff stories.
Yes, exactly. I know, and I understand, but I also, it's just natural for us to say stories.
Yeah.
Myself, like, oh, let me tell you a story, and then I tell them some of my experiences. It's just natural. Yeah.
Now, I never really came out publicly with it. Like, I told some other podcast last year because, strangely enough, they have there's a fair, like our fairgrounds is down there, so they had a paranormal convention. So they had this other podcast out there. So last Halloween time, went on their podcast and I told them about what happened, because I was like, well, ironically, right on this same road, I had my experience, but that was the time I've only really said it publicly. And then this past spring, no, it was this summer, I think, I got a message from someone that said there was another person in my area that was on a different podcast that had a dogman encounter in the same place as mine. I was like, so I found the episode, I listened to it, I was like, oh shit, I know exactly where this guy's talking about, but this happened in 1990.
Wow.
So I kind of used a little bit of variation from his own thing for my book. But
so that's interesting. 17 years. So 1990, 2007 is 17 years.
Yeah.
And your experience was 17 years ago, which means soon that dogman will pop up. He's like a locust dogman.
What, every 17 years?
He's like it, or the thing from Jeepers Creepers.
Exactly. Yeah. Now I have a question though. When they the experience of that dogman, how was it any similar to what you saw? Like when you
I would have to go back and listen to the episode. I reached out to the podcast to see if that guy, I was like, you don't have to tell me his information, but can you reach out to him and have him contact me, because we literally live in the same town.
Yeah.
And
yeah, exactly.
They claim they don't keep any records of their previous guest.
Oh.
And I was like, okay. But they also have like 500 something episodes that they've done. So
that's hard to even keep track of.
Yeah.
What podcast was that one?
Vic Cundiff's Dogman Encounters Radio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've heard the name Vic Cundiff.
But he asked me if I wanted to come on his show. So I was like, yeah, I can come on there. So that was one of the first real times I'd actually gone on anything to actually talk about it that was more or less Dogman related.
Yeah.
And
I think I've heard that story before. The one you were telling.
Yeah.
I don't remember where I've heard it. But I do remember, because once you started, you were talking to Paper Mill about the time punching, leaving early.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, where did I hear this? And I was thinking, maybe
I was just on Sasquatch Chronicles.
There it is.
Yeah.
I do listen to that show religiously, so I know
that was one of the first ones that I had heard too. It's funny because you guys just had Harley's episode come out.
Yeah.
I interviewed Harley and recorded before he went on Sasquatch Chronicles, and they put me and Harley on Sasquatch Chronicles together, and I'd recorded Harley before he went on anyone else's podcast. So I had to hurry up and release my episode because his wasn't supposed to come out till January. This is just how I have it booked out. I was like, well, he's been on some other podcasts, so I hurried up and released mine like 2 weeks ago just so I wasn't getting left in the dust.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, you're kind of like, oh crap, everyone else is. I got to drop mine.
It's like the new person when you get that, you have to kind of like, this is a crazy news story. You have to get it out there. Yeah, I know. Yeah, he contacted me and we were just and he's actually very friendly.
Yeah,
we've been talking a lot actually.
Yeah, he seems like a good guy. Like
he is a good guy.
I put his audio on there and everything, and the first thing I thought of when I heard it, I was like, it reminds me of a Brachiosaurus from Jurassic Park. Like that noise or whatever. So
yes, I know that noise. Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool.
Oh, the audio recordings.
Yeah.
No, but that was I thought it was ironic that when I got on Sasquatch Chronicles, and I didn't even want him to mention the show or anything on there. He said it at the end, but like, I don't want people going on there thinking I'm just on there to promote my own show. Just Sasquatch Chronicles was the first actual show that I started listening to that was interviewing people. So talking with Wes or whatever, I was like, it's kind of cool just to talk to him. So
yeah, he's got a great show.
I don't know if did it just come out recently?
It came out like a month ago.
Okay, so I was like, I've heard.
Yeah,
and you were together with Harley on the same episode?
Yeah, Harley's episode's on the same Sasquatch Chronicles episode, but I've recorded Harley before either one of us went on Sasquatch Chronicles.
That's so weird. I would think I would
Well, no. They didn't you didn't share the same episode.
No.
Your episode was different from Harley's. Sorry, you were just.
It's on the same episode. It's like episode 1002. Harley's encounter was first, and then my encounter was second.
Oh, okay.
He does two.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's how. No, we were both on the
You're
same.
right.
I just remember hearing that, and you were talking about the thing in the middle of the road, and I was like, this is ringing a bell somehow, but you know what I mean? Because you hear so many podcasts sometimes, you're just like, I've heard this.
That is awesome.
I don't listen to a whole lot of podcasts anymore. Like I didn't listen to a whole lot in the first part, but now that I'm doing one, I'm trying not to listen to other ones. And I recently had a guy that I was the first one he came to for a dog man thing. Then he was just on the confessionals like a couple weeks ago. I was like, it feels like you start making people are making the rounds. So I'm like, it kind of sucks if I'm going to hold these episodes back to keep on a schedule because they're going to go on someone else's show and get the stuff out first. And it's just like, so it's always competing.
I totally understand. I totally understand that. Yeah.
So, but no, you guys had that Matt episode. I actually reached out to him. I haven't ever heard back from him. Like he said, he was being picky about whose shows he was going on to. So I was like, all right, I mean, whatever.
Yeah, it happens.
So
if you want him, I can put in a word, but because me and Matt, we talk every other day pretty much. So yeah.
Like I said, I don't beg people like, hey, you want to come on my show? If they don't want to, I was like, that's fine.
Yeah. Hey, I can't knock that.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm here for anyone that wants to come on the show. If they don't want to come on the show, that's cool with me too. So,
yeah.
I don't do a whole lot of promoting. I don't do a whole lot of much of anything. Like it's all grassroots, word of mouth. So
that's fantastic.
I'm happy with what I have. I mean, so I don't want to like brag or whatever, but I think it's decent enough for what it is. Like for not having any sort of promotion, it's cool with me. I'm on the old band mindset though. Like bands I used to promote all the time. Now I don't do that. I'm doing the complete opposite, and I feel like I'm getting more reaction by not promoting it than when I did when I was promoting it all the time. So
interesting. Yeah, and like we're not paying for any promotions or stuff like that. We just show it up on Facebook and on Reddit, and that's what we do. And I'm quite happy with our progress as well too.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're moving.
We're grinding.
Definitely grinding.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I see you guys. You seem like you started back in the summertime.
April, end of April.
Okay. Yeah, and I feel like you guys have grown pretty well. So
thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that. I feel like I set a goal for us. It was a 3-year goal, and I
thought it was a very realistic goal too.
Yeah, but I think we're going to what I've said. I think we're going to hit that goal a little faster, but not letting it go to our heads or anything. It's just still like we just keep.
We're still babies at this.
Yeah, just do what we're just enjoying what we're doing, and I think that's the most important thing is enjoy what you're doing and enjoy the interviews and enjoy the stories, experiences.
Yeah,
but yeah.
No, like I said, I never had a end game or a goal or anything. I just wanted something to do, and
you're doing well too, man. You're doing well too.
It first started off as, like I said, I had all this band stuff. I wasn't doing band stuff. I was like, well, I'll do a podcast. And then for whatever reason, I went and bought this interface to record vocals for this band, and I bought the PA stuff, and then they didn't want to do it anymore. I was like, well, I guess now it's time to start the podcast. I've been kicking around for the last 2 years. So
there we go.
There you go, buddy.
But now I enjoy it. So
that's fantastic.
But well, that's the gist of my end. So
I thought it was awesome. It was a great story. Definitely, we're going to be putting this up. Yes.
Like I said, it's I wish I could just say that it was 100% a normal dog.
Yeah.
And it would make my life so much easier, because as much as I say it didn't affect me, look what I'm doing.
Exactly. Like, this is where your life has gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. All these events have pushed us in a direction, and whether we like it or not, it's pushed us in this direction. And, I think we have to embrace it. Like I do know one person we're talking to right now, I don't think she's embracing it. She's finally maybe coming to acceptance of it, but it's very, very difficult, and I some people do need that little bit of help, or just they need people to listen to their stories. And you given that platform, we given that platform, I think it's very therapeutic.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think everyone at some point has an experience, and I don't know if a lot of people recognize it as experiences. I don't think that it's all, I don't know the proper term to use. I don't think it's all like just specific people. I think everyone has some sort of interactions with something. I don't know if that's spiritual. I don't know if that's paranormal. I don't know if it's demonic. I don't know if it's alien. At some point, I think every single person had had something strange happen to them, but a lot of people don't see it that way.
They don't recognize it.
Yes.
Yeah. And the common phrase we always use, it's just my mind playing tricks on me. It's just my mind playing tricks. When in fact, when you start to realize it and you start to pay attention to it, you start to realize that there's more out there.
Yeah. Like I said, I've tried to be skeptical about so much stuff, but anymore, especially since I've started doing the podcast, I've been a lot more open-minded about things. And with the stuff I've talked about earlier with you guys, with my kids and what's going on in the house today and everything else, I'm almost on the fence of even wanting to continue doing the podcast, because it's like, if I'm bringing this type of stuff in.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's.
Well, you just got to see. I mean, you have to weigh it out. Like, do I want to continue because it's interesting? Will I get bored with it eventually? And if you feel that, maybe you should. But if you want to go down this road because maybe the experience that you had kind of nudged you in this direction, if you want to use like some type of universal force, and if that's happening, then you want to maybe. I'm not particularly a religious person. I'm a God person, but not a religious person. Maybe then, because you know that you also use the name of Jesus yourself. You said it helped. So there's some type of power in that.
Yeah.
Maybe go to your local church and have your house cleansed.
I've thought about it. That's what I was thinking about today. I grew up in a Christian, and my parents are super religious. And it's not that I'm against religion. It's just, I think there's a lot of flaws to certain aspects to everything.
Of course, because ego comes into play with that. And yeah.
So, like you said, I'm a God person, and I believe there's a higher power. I just don't know exactly which denomination or which religion or whatever it could be. But I think if you're a good person, that's what you should try and be in life. Like,
there it is.
And
maybe that's what you're doing.
I feel like that's what I try and what I feel like I'm trying to do is I'm trying to help people. Like, so I don't know.
On a fringe, I mean, at the same time, it's very fringy. What you're doing is extremely fringy. It's taboo, and at the same time, you're doing something that maybe other people don't want to hear or won't or choose or fear to do. And for you being like into horror, into the metal music that you and I are into, that I've listened to in my entire life, like for you, you've heard, you said your favorite band is Black Dahlia Murder. He always talks about fantasy and the poisoning of wells and the spires growing taller still. And it's a great lyric. What a horrible night to have a curse. You're there, at least in your heart. And now these things are nudging you in this direction. And now they're meeting in a place that you don't want them to meet, in your residence. Then maybe go back to the side in which it would help you. Go to the religious side, to the people, because these things do help. I don't know why they help, but they do.
Well, we did have one of our previous guests, he actually asked if he could pray for us. And we said, sure. And he actually sent us a recording, which we don't play, like we haven't played yet. But I think we should before every episode, before we do it. So kind of like, it's almost like a protection. It's kind of something that I feel that there should be like, because we're opening up a portal. We really are. We're opening up a doorway and hearing, and we're sharing these experiences. But I feel that we should make sure we close that door after we're done having those talks. And
I don't know. I don't think about every podcast. I don't think that would be a good idea. but I definitely
No.
before we go ghost hunting.
Okay. Remember, he said you're asking me for advice. This is the advice I'm giving you. I think we should do this almost before we do the podcast. We do this
for us.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
I'm not saying we should play it on the thing.
All right.
No.
Yeah, for us.
I know you're all So, but this is what I'm saying is, you're inviting everything. Oh my God,
marketing manager. Okay.
So we're kind of opening a doorway. It's the same thing. Like one of the things I don't ever touch anymore is a Ouija board, because that opens up a whole other can of worms, a whole other stories that maybe I believe are connected with that I've experiences that I've had. But you're opening up a doorway, and you don't know what's on the other side. When these people are telling you their experiences, of course, we're hearing their stories, their what's on the other side. But it's always good maybe to have that closure to secure.
He actually has a pretty big podcast. You ever heard of Uncomfortable podcast?
I have not.
Well,
I think I might have.
It's like a small U and then a big N, and then
okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's actually a pretty cool guy. He lives here in Indiana. He's only about an hour north of me, so we've been talking about a lot of things lately, and we're gonna be doing some collaborating. He was on one of my recent episodes, and I was just on one of his episodes too. But he said that he does I don't know if it was a prayer, but like a protection type of thing before specific interviews that he does because of certain things. So I'm probably going to reach out to him and ask him exactly what he does, because I've never took it seriously that something could come through a computer and be manifesting in my house. But at this rate, I don't know. Like I said, at the end of the day, I don't know anything when it comes to stuff like this. Like I've talked to people, I've looked into stuff, I've read some stuff, but at the end of the day, I'm just a guy with a microphone.
So I'm going to tell you something. So on Tuesday, we were just talking to the Sasquatchers, and I was explaining a little bit of, because I've done some work in shamanism. I've been learning years ago kind of thing, and it's still coming through. Now, something that comes into play is, I don't know, have you ever heard of scrying, like an occult, the scrying?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so scrying is when you use a mirror or some sort of reflective device to see to the other side or to communicate through the other side. Okay, So what do you think a computer screen is? A screen is kind of, in essence, a mirror. We're scrying and we're communicating with someone else on the other side. We're not on the other side, but yes. Yeah. So computer screens are, in essence, scrying. So it's that type of protection we need to take into account, and so I do believe that something, and my wife was kind of mentioning that to me the other day about, like, do you ever feel that maybe you're going to bring stuff with you? And I'm like, yeah, there's a possibility. So it's kind of something that I've been thinking about more and more lately. I would say last month is something that's been coming up more and more, where I'm like, okay, I think I need to, protect myself, and to kind of like, hey, the door is open now, but when we're done, I need to close that door every time we're done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I've thought, and I don't know if it would still follow me and if it's on the same property, but I've thought about getting one of those barns, putting it out back, and climate control the barn, put all my stuff out there. That way I'm not in the house doing it, but at the same time, it's still on the property, so I don't know if that'll necessarily make a difference, but
it definitely would be. It definitely would be. But I would definitely, I can always tell you off air some other things that I would recommend to do, with what I've learned. But the biggest thing, and like I said, placebo. Why does the placebo work? Because people believe in it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you believe what you're doing is going to close the door or going to protect you, it's going to have a lot of power to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at this rate, I'm willing to try anything, just because when it starts messing around with my children.
Yep.
You gotta
don't even mention it, dude.
Yeah.
We all know, we're all dads here.
Yeah. That's the one thing that I'll never do, is try and put my children in some sort of harm's way. So
exactly.
If this podcast is causing, it'll be the last podcast episode I ever record. So.
I think start making some progressive changes. Like if you are feeling that it is opening a doorway, then make sure you close that doorway. Yeah, that it stays
reach out and ask others. Maybe have someone come over, give you a hand, and just maybe see what happens. And then if it doesn't get any better,
well,
then
you mentioned the Ouijas, and I should mention this. Probably about 2 months ago, my kids had some friends over, and they thought they're going to make a makeshift Ouija board down in the basement.
Uh-oh.
And they had candles and everything. I was like, they're probably down there trying to do a freaking seance. So I ran down here. They were. So I ripped them all new ones, and their friends hasn't come back over since then because I was yelling and screaming. And I was like, of all the things to do not do that shit in my house.
Yep.
Like, especially with what we had to deal with when we first moved in. I was like, you guys remember that.
I'd rather have them run around with scissors. Go run with scissors.
Yeah.
I get like they're 12-year-olds or 13, whatever. Like they don't understand, but at the same time, it's like, you know what I do, you know what I talk about, you know how I feel about things. Don't fuck around with something like that.
Yep.
So
I totally agree, because it is a doorway. You're opening up a portal to something.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know. This is exactly what I said on Tuesday. I said it could be good, and it's going to say it's good. Could be bad, it's going to say it's good. You don't know. And especially if you don't know what you're doing, especially if you're 12 or 13, like knowing what I know now, would I still, operate a Ouija board? No. Especially now that I know, and I was about 16 years old, when we decided to go to Toys R Us and buy a Ouija board, because that's where you find all the best Ouija boards.
That's the one I used.
And so that's something that I'll never do again. And that's after that is when I had the shadow person experience there, where there was I come home late with some friends, and I couldn't fall asleep, tossing and turning in my bed, watching the clock. All I'm seeing is the time tick down. Because I had to wake up early in the morning to go to work my part-time job. I'm like, oh, only 7 hours and 13 minutes left to sleep. Oh, 6 hours and 58 minutes left to sleep.
That's what I used.
And then so the hang on. Yeah. So, and then I finally see, that's your ADD, totally ADD distraction. So let me get back on track. So I'm counting down time. I'm like, I can't sleep. And that's when I look above me, floating above me, I see head, shoulders, torso, and when it went into the waist, that's when it disappeared off into nothing. And it was blacker than black. The waist part, though, that was smoky, like a white smoky. So it was blacker than black, but at this point, it was like this white smoky. Now, that wasn't the scary part. The scary part was the eyes. The eyes, like more of like, not the whole eye, but just like the pupil or just the cornea. It was red, glowing red. And so you see this shadow person floating above me 2 to 3 feet with these red glowing eyes. Now, the length of time it stayed there, I don't know. Could have been just a couple of seconds. Now, at that point, I was scared stiff. And a lot of people are like, oh, that's sleep paralysis. No. This wasn't. This was me being so scared, I'm not moving. I was awake, moving prior to this. I see this. I'm not moving now. Now, after it disappeared, I don't know how long it was with that time that I fell asleep. All I remember next was waking up in the morning. So that was my real shadow person experience. That was, that kind of started me off on this. Like, I had seen other stuff prior to that, but this was like the scariest thing that I had seen.
I never knew what shadow people were up until I started looking into the podcast stuff and interviewing people, but I think this was in 2003. I lived still with my parents, obviously, and I remember waking up in the middle of the night, and you ever just felt like your throat was like burning, like you're choking or gagging, and you wake up from a sleep?
Yeah.
I woke up like that, and above me, and everyone's laughed at me, I was like, it was a cowboy. I saw a black hat cowboy looking person above me, and they were choking me. Like I just seen like the silhouette of this cowboy choking me, and that's why I felt the pressure and I couldn't move. Like, I didn't know what sleep paralysis was or anything until just like in the last 2 years now, but I couldn't move, and this thing was choking me, and then finally it disappears and I could move again, and I was like, went and got a drink of water. I always wrote that off as well. I was clearly dreaming that my throat was burning because I needed a drink, and I was half asleep, so I manifested this thing. And then I started doing the podcast and started reading it. Hat Man. Like, oh shit.
Yep.
Sleep paralysis comes with a Hat Man. And like,
Exactly.
Yeah, this was 20 years ago. I never heard of anything called a Hat Man up until 2 years ago. So
That was me, the Dog Man. I didn't know anything about Dog Man until like a year ago. But Hat Man, well, I know what I seen, but he told me the name was Hat Man, so I seen one too.
yeah, they're that's the one thing I can say. I never wrote it as anything real or paranormal. I just thought I was dreaming, but now that
Yeah,
it
it looked
sounds
like
like it's a very common thing.
the one I seen, it looked like it walked in front of a doorway in my bedroom. So like the light was shining out into the hall. So I heard something walking down the hall, and then I heard a door open because there's a middle doorway in this building, and then I was expecting another band door to open or to come in where we were, and I didn't hear nothing. And then it walked in front, and like you said, it looked like had a cowboy hat on, or but not a big one.
It was small.
It wasn't like a derby hat or a derby hat, I guess you call it. Not a cowboy hat, but like somewhere's in between. Very tall, very defined outline, but it looked like it had a duster on.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like it just walked right in front of the door, dude.
This had like the hat that came out like almost like a brim to it.
Yes.
And I seen like it almost like you said. I always took like a vest. I said it was a vest, but I could see it maybe being like a duster. But like when it was just bent over, I could just see it almost.
You had the full frontal. I got the sideways.
Like version. I seen the whole shape of the head, and I just seen like the hat that went up like this, and it had rim around it. But then there was a vest. Like you could see, like you could almost see like this was open, like it wasn't buckled, like a shirt was unbuttoned or something. Like you could see like a slit down side of it.
Is it like a cowboy, or is it like a corsair or something like that, like a sailor or something like that?
I don't know. I always the old wrestler Stone Cold Steve Austin, where he had that leather vest thing. That's what I always chalked it up as. It was like it looked like that.
Let's just see here.
So
I'm gonna see if I have a picture. But you guys, I'm gonna see if I got something here that might.
But no, the hat shape, I always thought it was a cowboy hat because it was just one of those. It could have been.
Like, I don't remember if I seen. I think I also seen like the nose too.
Like something like that.
No,
not like that, eh?
Not that I'm aware of. Like I said, I didn't really see like features of a face. I just seen more.
Sorry, that might be a better.
No, that's like a what's that game where the guy climbs up the building?
Yeah, not anything like that, eh?
No, not like that. It was more. Right. It was definitely rounded. It almost not like a top hat, but you know, like the people back from the 30s and 40s, like the old gangsters, they always had the hats on, something like that. It could have been something similar to that one too, like the rounded.
Yeah, it's rounded on the top.
Yeah,
but it kind of comes out. It comes out like from the head, maybe I don't know, 6-7 inches.
Yeah, maybe.
It wasn't like the cowboy hat where it comes out real far, where like it blocks the sun.
This one, it went around the whole hat.
Yes. Yes, It looks like that dude from Mortal Kombat that threw the hat at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like that size too.
Yeah.
So but I don't remember I can't remember because it was like a profile. If it had like the nose and all that, I just seen the hat and like the shoulders, but
I don't remember
real quick.
I don't remember the facial features. I don't know if it had. I just remember the shape.
Yes.
And yeah.
Yeah,
like I said, I chalk that up as it was part of a dream. So.
Yeah, I had sleep paralysis too, but I've never had it where I've had something above me. I mean, I've had it where I couldn't move, and I couldn't open my eyes, and I can hear myself breathing. I can hear myself in my dream. I'm yelling, and I can hear myself yelling at myself. And if someone were just to touch my pinky, I swear I would be able to move. It's like you're trying to move for 10 tons, but it's my whole body trying to move.
I just had that happen about a month ago in my own bedroom. Like I was just laying there and like I was awake, but I felt like I couldn't move, and then finally I could move. It's just strange.
Oh yeah, or you're just about to fall asleep, and you're like, and it freaks you out. You go like that. I've had that jump many a time.
Yeah. I always feel like I'm levitating sometimes, and like I jerk and like the bed vibrates. And like I was floating. I had to have been floating. But well, guys, I think we can probably wrap this up if you're
absolutely.
Yes, it's getting late here.
It's getting ready.
Definitely. This has been fantastic.
I got some tacos to eat, my friend.
So I've got kid upstairs has been running wild for the last 2.5 hours. So.
Oh, jeez.
No
worries.
What trouble did they get into?
No, I don't. As long as they're happy, I don't care. Like
Fair enough. Fair enough.
As long as he's not pointing a ghost in the ceiling, I guess that's fine. So
yeah.
But no, guys, I appreciate it. You want to let everyone know where they can find your podcast at again?
Of course, it's the Lost Frequency Podcast. We're on all podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify,
Podbeam, Podcast Addict.
All
the ones that you can
And then, of course, on YouTube, where we're kind of really pushing more for YouTube lately. And that's, of course, the Lost Frequency Podcast. And Facebook, Rye Voss.
Tom Franklin.
That's it.
We also have a Facebook group, all that stuff. And just we drop our episodes on Spotify and that whole podcast area every Thursday. And all of the videos that go with the podcast come on every Sunday.
Nice. I'll make sure to include what I can in the show notes too. So if you got any specific links, just send them my way and I'll add them in there.
Definitely. Yes. And where are you found? What area? Where are you found? I know you said you don't do video, so not YouTube.
No, I'm on YouTube. I just put up the static image videos.
Yes. That's what Tom did in the beginning. I didn't know you were on YouTube. I know you're on. I found you on Spotify and Podbean as well.
Yeah, I'm on all the places where your podcast should be. So Spotify, Apple, all that stuff. I listen on Apple because I have Apple stuff. So I pay for the subscription for music, so I get all the podcast stuff for free too. So, free.
Yeah, exactly, free.
But yeah, so anyone out there listening, you can find Tinfoil Tales on YouTube. You can find it on any streaming platform. I will give a warning, though. There is another podcast called Tinfoil Tales, but it is from Australia, and they talk about the Australian government, and that is not me. I did not know that podcast existed, but they released the first episode of theirs in June, and I released mine in September of last year. But I've had the name before they had theirs, but I was like, son of a bitch. So, yeah, I mistakenly, this is funny, like back in April, I was ranked, I forget what it was, like top 25 in Australia. I was like, how the hell am I ranked in Australia?
Oh, wow.
It was the wrong pod. People were they were going to the wrong podcast. I kept getting messages from people from Australia, like, what do you think about the scratchers out in the back? I was like, the what? I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so I Googled and I was like, oh shit, there's another podcast called Tinfoil Tales. So yeah, I sometimes
you know what you should have done is send a message back with links to your episodes. Well, I don't know, but check this out. What do you think of this?
Just start talking about Snickers bars and completely throw them off.
Yeah, I don't. Apparently, I guess scratchers. I could be 100% wrong, but from what I gathered, was they're kind of like meth heads, the Australian version of meth heads or something. I don't know. I don't know, but that's a little interesting tidbit today. So if you look up Tinfoil Tales, make sure it's the one that has like the artwork that looks like aliens and monsters and stuff on the cover. Like if it says Tinfoil Tales, it's got like a blood drippy white logo with a tinfoil hat on it. That is the Australian one.
There we go.
So, well, guys, I appreciate it. It's been great talking with you.
Yes, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Brendan.
Yep. You guys have a good night.
You too.
Remember, the truth lies in the stories we share, the connections we make. Stay curious, stay open-minded. Thank you all for joining us on this journey, and until next time, keep questioning, keep seeking, and keep exploring the unknown. Good night, everyone.